So it's nice to have you guys, and then I know you're probably nervous for the midterm, but it's fine. You'll get through it for sure. So we have Karina and Steven, right? Yeah. Wait a minute. Okay. Yeah. Hello. Yeah, exactly. I just want to make sure that everyone has access, can hear me, and then has access to the chat, because it is kind of hard to find it. Yeah, so for this VSI, what I wanted to do is go over variable tracing, and then have you guys create a class, just so you guys can refresh upon creating a new class with features and a method. And at the end, if we still have time, and then if we have cleared like all your questions and stuff, we can go over some string methods just as a warm up, I guess, for the midterm. And if you guys have any questions or anything like that, you can just chat, and then I'll know. So variable tracing, I think, is really important because it lets you see through your code, sort of like understand how the code works. So it is really important, and I'm pretty sure you had this question in one of your homeworks. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's a pretty good important question, and just as a question itself, it could show up in the midterm. I don't know, but then even if it doesn't, it still helps you like understand the structure of your code. So that's why I wanted to start off with that first. And then, yeah, so for now, I'll just show you guys like a brief example of how you can do that. And now you should be able to see my screen. I'll open up BlueJ, and I have a program for tracing it, and then we'll go over that. I'll go over that. And then for the next one, we'll go over it together. Yeah, so that's for variable tracing. And then, yeah, trace. My bad, guys. My computer is not that good, so it's kind of slow. Sorry for that. Yeah. So this is the first problem I wanted to go over with you guys. For variable tracing. So basically, this is a program, and then we go over all the changes in the particular variable we're tracing. If we go over to our agenda, yeah. Can you guys see the screen? Can you guys see the PowerPoint presentation like clearly if it's like this, or do you want me to present it whenever I show you guys the presentation? It's good like this. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, if you guys can see this clearly, then yeah, we're good. So I want to go over the variable C here and see all the changes that this particular variable goes throughout the program. And then, so this is the program. And then, so first we see the declaration of C, and then we see that it says C equals 0, which means the first value that C acquires is 0. So we can write that down as 0 here. So this basically goes through the different stages of a variable in a program. And then now we have A equals 1 and B equals 2. If A is less than B, which is true because 1 is less than 2, it goes inside this block here, which is this code. So this code runs because this condition is true. And then C equals 1. We have C equals 1 now because this does run because 1 is less than 2. So now that the variable has been updated, we I want to write it down here. Usually in your questions, you'll probably have it like in lines, like in this line, what's the value of this variable? In this line, what's the value of this variable? But since that's kind of weird, I'm just going to like update the variable every time it changes. So it's just easier. And then we have another if condition, a nested if in the first one. Now let's see if this one is true or false. It says if a less than c. A is 1 here, and then the current value of c is actually 1 and not 0, because as you can see from this table here, okay, let me try to small this. Yeah, nice. So now the current value of c is 1, as we can see from the table. So now it says 1 is less than 1, which is false. So it goes into the else statement because this doesn't run because this is false. So it goes in here. So now the value of c is 2. And now we want to update that in the table. And then now that this is run, it comes out of this block. So there's no else or anything. So it just normally runs the program now after this entire thing was run. So now we have this line. If a less than c and b less than c, can anybody tell me what that is? If this if condition is true or false? You can chat through the, you can type in your stuff through the chat, and then let's see if you guys can. Okay, Abdul says he doesn't understand. Can you elaborate on that? Like what part of did you not understand the question? The question was if this check if this particular condition is true or false, like this entire thing. Does that solve your question, or do you have? So with and this has to be true. I can put in brackets so it's easier to understand. So when we use and it basically means both the conditions have to be true for it to be true. So we check the first condition, which is a less than c. A is 1 here, and then c is the current value of c right now is not 0 because that's the older stage. Right now the value of c is 2. Oh yeah, 1 less than 0. Oh yeah, so as you can see there, Abdul says it's 1 less than 0. Yeah, you basically have to keep track of the variable because the initial value of c was 0, but then it changed throughout the course of the program, and now we are running this line or checking at this stage of the program, right? So right now this value of the variable is 2, as we can see in this chart here, on the table. So it's actually 1 less than 2. If c is equal to 2, then it is false, right? So Stephen is asking a question. C equals 2. So if c equals 2, 1 is less than 2. That is true, right? So here, I guess I can like comment. So here, so I'll write down the stages of the thing right here. So here, right before this line runs, the value of the variables are a equals 1, b equals 2, and c equals 2. So now do you guys, can you guys sort of try to tell me what the answer is? It's okay. Yeah, it does get confusing. So these are the values of the variables right now at this point in the code. So we basically have to check this condition and then this condition. And then if they're both true, then this code right here runs. to simplify, I guess, so what it comes down to is basically it checks both the conditions, right? So the first condition is is A less than C, which is 1 less than 2. And the second condition is B less than C, which is 2 less than 2. Yeah, you're right. Abdus is right. So 1 less than 2 and 2 less than 2. Since 2 less than 2 is false, so this entire condition is false now because it says and, which means both of them have to be true for it to be true. So yeah, this is false. So basically, if the if condition is false, it never runs this. So the value of C is still 2. It doesn't get changed to 3 because this code doesn't run. So that's how you would trace a variable. Oh, we don't need a return false because basically the expressions in Java, right? They basically these are called conditional expressions or conditional expressions. They give out a value of true or false because if you see in here, if A is less than B, it basically gives you true or false depending on the values of A and B. You don't have to like return anything because Java does that for you. So in here, when we first ran this code, as you can see, it's 1 less than 2. Java checks that 1 less than 2. It knows it's true, so it returns true by itself to the if condition here, and then it goes in. So we don't have to return anything. It's automatic. Does that clear your question? Do you guys have any questions on this, or are you guys ready to trace through one other problem? Okay, so you no longer have any questions. That's good. Since it's false, C is still equal to, yep, yeah, Steven is right. Since it's false, C is still equal to 2. So yeah, C is still equal to 2, C is still equal to 2 because it never runs. The code never runs for this code never runs. So it's still 2 because that was the value before it ran. Yeah, Steven, you're right. All right. So after this, I want you guys to trace these 3 variables instead of just 1. It's not this big. I just have all these columns, so we have enough space, but it's not that big, so you don't have to get intimidated by it. Yeah. So that's how you trace a variable. So I have this system.out.println just to verify in the end, but then that's okay. So let's go over it together. I'll have you guys give me the answers and then I'll put them in. How do I do this? Okay. I have like the chat open too, so it's kind of hard to look at it. But yeah. Okay, so yeah, this is the code. 1 second, let me try to resize it so even C is visible. Yeah. All right, so this is the code. Let's go over the values of A, B, and C as they change throughout the program. So A, B, C are instantiated here. Can you guys tell me what I put down over here for this program? What I put down in this what's the first value that A acquires in this program right here? You guys can type it in and then I'll know. 10, yeah, that's right. So basically the first value a variable acquires is when you instantiate it. So if you look for like int, right, that's when you know, oh, that's the beginning value. So for B and C, it's 20 and 30 each. So we can write that down. All right, so now that we've given the initial values for all the variables, let's go move on and then see what happens between these when the program runs. So now the next line is C equals A. Can you tell me which variable changes and what it changes to? For this line. C changes, yeah, that is correct. Now it has 10. So C takes the value of A, which is 10, and Karina is right. So C now has the value of 10. It's no longer 30. And now, can anybody tell me what the value of A is? I guess what, yeah, because A changes. Yep, yeah, Steven is right. So A equals the value of B. So you're taking the value of B and giving it to A. So what that does is it makes A the same value as B, which is 20. So A is 20 after that line. Steven was right. And what about the last one? 30. B equals C. So before this code runs, let's see, yeah, B changes, but then before this code runs, these in this table, this is the current, these are the current values of the variables, right? Because A is 20 now, because we changed it after this line over here. And then B is 20, and then C is 10 now. So now you're changing B, that is correct, but what does it get changed to? The value of C. What's the current value of C? Yeah, it's not 30 because it's 10 because it changed in the program already, right? So the current value of C is actually 10 and not 30. So you can just refer to the table you're making. Yeah, you can just refer to the table you're making to like see the current value of C because it's not the initial value. You know, now the current value of C while this code is running, right? When B equals C, when this code runs, the current value of C is 10, and then that gets assigned to B. So now B gets 10 and not 30. Do you guys understand that? Do you have any questions on that? Stephen Abdus, do you get that? Yes? Yeah. So yeah, just make sure you refer to the current value of the variables instead of the ones up here. Yeah, that's just one way you can like make it's an easy way for making mistakes, I guess. Yeah, so just refer to the chart, I guess, or the table instead of the code for the current values. So all right, let's move on. So can you guys tell me if this if condition right here, if this condition right here is true or false? You can refer to the table for the current values of A and B. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you guys are right. So this is true because A modulus B, which is 20 modulus 10, is 0 because it's perfectly divisible. So all right, so now we know that this condition is true, which means the code inside the if condition, um, inside these two braces right here, this one and this one, runs. So now we know that this code runs, the one in the blue runs. So now it comes over here, and then now again, there's another if condition. So now it checks for this one. Is this true or false? True. Because the current values of B and C are 10 and 10 each, which means it is true. Now that we know that this is true, right? Which means we know that the code inside this if these two things run, which means now we have a assignment statement. So now the value of C changes. So now that it changes, we need to update it in the table. So we just write down the new value of C. So now the current value of C is 30 and not 10 because it changed after this statement ran. Now that the if statement is done, it comes back over here. And then now, can you guys tell me if this if condition is true or false? Okay, I don't have space to write true or false as a comment there. But can you guys help me with this? False. Okay. Let's see if this is true or false. Karina says it's false. Let's check it out. So a divided by 2 is, so the current value of a is 20, and then 20 divided by 2 is 10, and then it says 10 equal to 30, which is false. So this is false. We know that this is false, but when we use the or command, right, or operator, it checks this or this. If any of them is true, it still runs. So let's check the second one. The second one is b divided by c equals 0. B is 10. 10 divided by c. So the current value of b is 10 and the current value of c is 30. And then 10 divided by 30 is 0. So this is false. So this is false, but then this is true. Because 10 divided by 30 is 0. Yeah, it's fine. So for or, you just have to remember that for or operator, if any of them is true, it still runs. So now that we know that this runs, c equals 40. So the new value of c is 40. All right, can you guys tell me if this code runs? The one in the else. Can you guys tell me if this runs? Yeah, what does Steven think? You can take a minute. Yeah. Okay, yeah, Steven asked for the question again. So the question is whether or not this code runs, though whether or not else runs is basically what I'm asking. Did you get the question, Steven? It is a bit tricky, but yeah, the current value of C is 40, as we can see from the table. I'm asking if this code right here in the else runs or not. Does this code run? Does the value of C change after this code is executed, I guess? No, yeah, exactly. All of you guys are right. It doesn't run because this else is connected to this if right here. And since this if was true, this doesn't run. So all of you guys were right. Good job. And yeah, so this doesn't run because this else is connected to this if right here, the one on the top, not these two. And then since this was true, this doesn't run. So basically the C value doesn't change and it's still 40. So now the current values of A, B, C are 20, 10, and 40, and we can verify them. As we can see, the current values of A, B, C are 20, 10, and 40, which are the exact same values we have over here, 20, 10, and 40. So that's basically variable tracing. You note down the changes of the variable, and then it really lets you figure stuff out when you have when you're stuck in the logic part of a question, right? If you just see the state variable changes, then you'll like sort of understand the code, and then you'll be like, oh, this value of I'm changing the value of here, so that's wrong, and stuff like that. So this is a really efficient way of debugging your programs. If you have if you ever have if you ever have any like doubts or stuff like that in your code, right? You can just sort of make a table, check the values, and then it'll really help you guys a lot if you're not sure. All right. So for the second part of the session, I want you guys to implement a class. So you guys should be familiar with the graphics package now. So just create a new project on BlueJ and then import the graphics package. Horstman graphics package, I think it's called. Yeah, import the graphics package and then create a new class called Square. All right, while you guys are still doing it, I'll just go over what the class does. So what the class does is basically let you create a square instead of, so in graphics package, there's no class called square. So every time you want to create a square, you need to create a rectangle and then make its width and height the same, and then like use it. So there's no specific thing for a square. You just have to create a rectangle with the same width and height. So what we're going to do is basically create a square which takes in like just the width or the height, I guess, and then that'll be the length of the square instead of having to use the rectangle class. We'll just have to use, we can just use, we'll make it so that we can just use the square class, which takes in like just the width or the length, and then that'll be the same for both. So if you guys can open up rectangle, if you guys can open up the rectangle class, and then, okay, yeah, if you guys can open up the documentation for the rectangle class, you can see that in the constructor, it takes in double x, double y, double width, double height. It has 4 parameters. How many parameters do you think our constructor would have, the square class which we're about to create? 3? Yeah, Karina's right, because the width and the height is going to be the same. So we can just take in one parameter for it. So we can just say like double length, I guess. That would be the width and the height for the square because it's square and both of them are the same. Anybody else have any questions on that, or do you sort of get how many parameters our squares constructor would have? I'll open up the thing. So Abdul, so you don't understand why it has 3 parameters, or so yeah, I can go over why it has 3 parameters. So basically, suppose we have like so is this the main method? Yeah. For now, I guess I'll just clear this out for now, right? And then now if you wanted to create a rectangle with like with using the graphics package, what you would have to do is make a rectangle, say call it like a skew for a square, I guess, and then say new rectangle of, and then if you look at the documentation, right, it tells you you need x, y, width, height, basically 4 parameters. So you would give it like 0 for the x value, 0 for the y value, and then its width and height, the width and the height. So you could say like 20 and 50. And then now you can say sq.draw. And now what this does is basically draw a rectangle at the top left corner of the canvas with width 20 and height 50. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the rectangle class has 4 parameters. Now what I want you guys to do is basically create a class called square. And then now if you say like, now if you say like square2 equals new square, if you wanted to create a square before this, if we wanted to create a square using the rectangle class, what we would have to do is like basically say square3 equals new. Yeah. I'll get to it in a second. So square3 equals new rectangle. If you wanted to create a square using the rectangle class, what you'd have to do is basically say 0, 0. And then suppose you want a square of width 100, right? So you say 100, 100, because it takes in 2 parameters, x, the width and the height. So this is the width, which is 100. This is the height, which is 100. But then since for our class square, we know that the width and height are going to be the same, we can just take 1 parameter for that. So yeah, the rectangle class takes 4, but then the question was how many parameters for the constructor would our square class need? So for a square class, what we want to do is basically say, take the x value, take the y value, which is 0, 0, and then just take one more value, 75, which is basically equal to the width and the height of the square. So I was asking the number of parameters our square class would need for the constructor. So do you understand? Do you understand that now, or do you still have questions? You can let me know in the chat. You get it? Yeah. So basically, that was the question. I'm sorry, I probably didn't word my question right, but yeah. So this is what I meant by saying square equals, the number of constructors or parameters for the constructor of square. Yeah, so now if we continue on the question, it says it lets the user draw a square at the required coordinates. So that means that we need the x parameter, the y parameter, as well as the width or the length of the square. And then it has one method draw. So I want you guys, so now that you're done with creating a class called square, I want you guys to create a constructor for it with 3 parameters. So once you're done creating the constructor, let me know in the chat and then we can move on to the method. You can name the variables anything you want. Before this actually, so since we know that the constructor takes in 3 parameters, how many instance variables would we need? Anybody guess? Yeah, it lets the user pick the coordinates as well as the length of the square. So it's basically, it takes in 3 parameters, the x, y, and the length of the square. So how many did the constructor, right? We want the user to be able to draw, just like how we can draw a square, right? So once we've created the square or the rectangle, they can draw it, and then that basically draws it. So now I want you guys to create a method. I want you guys to create a method called draw, which draws the square using a rectangle. Can you guys tell me how you would create the method, like the method stub, like public something something? Can you guys tell me what you would need for draw? Basically draw your square. So for now, I guess I can remove these things. And then, so what do you have for your square class right now should be something like private int x, private int y, private int length, And then you should have a constructor for it, public trace. Now it's trace here for me because this is the name of the class, but it will be square for you guys. In here you can have like dx and dy and the length. So you'll have a constructor like this, which assigns the value for the instance variables. So that would be x equals dx, y equals dy, and then length equals the length. So you should have this by now. And then now you guys want to create this method, right? Which draws out whatever the square is, I mean, regarding the length. So how would you guys have any ideas on how we can draw? Public square index pos, yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So that should be similar to what your guys' constructor looks like. So for the draw method, do you have any ideas on how you can draw a square? You can use the rectangle class. So how would you draw a square or a rectangle, I guess, because all squares are rectangles. How would you draw a rectangle with these parameters, x, y, and length? Oh, okay. It's fine. All right. So yeah, as long as you understood variable tracing, it's really good. Use same length for width and height. That is correct, Stephen. So basically we create a rectangle here, temporary rectangle, and then say new rectangle, right? And then the rectangle takes in x, y, width and length, width and height. The x and y values are here are x, y. Yeah. So Karina is right. That's how you would call the square class. But I'm asking how would you implement the class for the draw method for the square class. So this is how you would do it. So you basically take this, and then for the width and the height, it's the same as length. So you just say length and length again. So now that you've created this, you just say temporary rectangle dot draw. And then now this draws a rectangle with length and length basically for the width and height. So now what you can do is, okay, let me just, okay, I've already created a square class. Let me just open it up. This is similar. So this is the square class, which I wanted you guys to create. You guys figured out that there should be 3 instance variables. That is cool. And then 3 parameters for the constructor. You assign those instance variables to the values of the constructor with side equals t side, x equals dx, depending on your variables. And now we want a draw method. And a draw method basically draws a rectangle onto the canvas or a square. And how you do that is use the rectangle class. You just say rectangle SQ or whatever, you can name it whatever you want, and then say new rectangle. The x and y values are the same as your instance variables. And then since the width and the height are the same for a square, you just say side and side or whatever your value is, and then you draw it. So that is the end of the square class. Now let's test it out and see if it works. Let's say square, new square equals 50, 50, 100 and draw. So compile that and then run the code. And there you go. So now we have a class called square, right? Which you can use in any of your programs. Instead of saying new rectangle equals new rectangle of 0, 0, 50, 50, twice the same. Now you can just say square. Now you can just say square and give it 1 value like we did here. And now it does the same thing. So that's implementing a class. And yeah, you guys have any questions on that? Like, so this is why you would probably need to create a new class for it. And you guys have any questions with the constructor, the method, how it's drawing? All right, yeah. So yeah, that's how you implement a class. And now since we have like 10 minutes left, let's just go over quickly the string methods. You can think of these as like warm up for the midterm. And let's see. So the first one is, hey, nice to meet you. There's a space here. There's a space here. Nice to meet you. Dot chat out of 6. Can you guys tell me what this statement returns in Java? Like which character does it return? Yeah, Steven is right. Did you get how that works, Karina? Mm-hmm. You can have your time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So now let's move on to the second question. Now it says, hey, nice to meet you. That substring of 5, 10. Can you guys tell me what this statement returns? Let's see. All right. So it's the first index is the index where it starts, and the second number or parameter is actually where it ends, and it's not including 10. So the indices of the substring are basically 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's no 10. It's not 10 characters after 5, it's actually until 10, the index 10. I think that's what Karina's sort of confused about. So it includes 5, it doesn't include 10, and they're both indices. It's not length. So what is it? Steven was close. Yeah. Since there is a space there, can you put it in quotes and tell me? Um, put the answer in quotes and then tell me, because you can't type it in like one line. Yeah, exactly. Steven is right. So there's a space after it. It counts the space as the 9th index, and then the T is on the 10th index, and it doesn't count it because substring works like that, and then it doesn't take the 10th value. So yeah, it's n. It's n because it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The next one is 10, but it doesn't count it, so it's just NICE and space. So yeah. So that's how substring works. And then can you guys tell me how this would work? Concat. Put it in quotes so it's easier to like understand. Yep. Did everyone get that? How the answer is like, hey, nice, but without a space. because concat just puts them together without anything in between. So there's no space. What about this one? Index of. So index of returns the index. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So that's what index of does. And then what about the last one? Yeah.